We rolling?
We are recording.
We're live
Yep.
here
We're podcasting
in New
again.
York City. Live.
2 months later, we decided to
continue this.
make another podcast.
Yes.
Although for you, the viewer at home, who can't see us because all of our video equipment did not work properly.
Sorry.
In fact, I accidentally completely killed my last iPhone trying to get video from my iPhone to my HP laptop. That just apparently was too much and my iPhone turned into a brick. Only good if there's an impromptu stoning on the way to work, which usually doesn't happen here.
Okay, so not at all what this podcast is about, but we love a good red herring.
I'm just telling everyone, the trouble. I keep pointing, like I'm pointing to the camera that doesn't exist anymore.
Sorry. It's a good thing we're not on camera. My hair is a disaster today.
Yeah, well, my hair is a disaster every day, so.
Okay, first of all, do not speak that way about yourself.
Okay. So yeah, 2 months later, we had some issues starting up, but now that we're going,
listen,
we got to stick to the schedule.
Slow start
once a week
is, it's tortoise in the hare. We're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are discussing family vacations. Ethan, tell me about the first family vacation in your memory.
The first family vacation in my memory, I don't think that I could honestly pick it out. Mainly because we always did family vacation in the same place. So from year to year, the memories kind of blend together. Sure. So I have a lot of memories. We would always vacation. We would go to Tennessee, Gatlinburg, Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We would go camping usually for around a week. And then we'd go into Gatlinburg, stay at the Glenstone Lodge for about another week. Every year we did this in May time, roughly. But because of that, looking back, I have a ton of memories associated with camping and Gatlinburg and Tennessee and all that stuff. But to pick out and be this is my earliest memory, I don't know that I could do that. I have a ton of memories of we would go and set up the campsite, and that was always just the worst part. Was setting up and tearing down camping is the worst part, because you have to clear the area, make sure there's no sticks, and then you set the tent up, and then inevitably you missed a stick and you're lying on it all night, every night.
Yep.
And then cleaning up is the worst, because you have to roll up the tent and you have to go really slow and brush off all the dirt and the moisture, and you can't let it get inside your tent. So aside from the setting up of the campsite, I have a lot of memories of we would go hang out in the woods a lot, because all the campsites were in marked campsites right next to each other, and there were hundreds of them here, I would assume. I'm not really sure. It's been a long time since I've been to that camping site, but there were a ton of campsites. And then there were they were all on roads, and then there was another road you could kind of cross, and you would be into a wooded area where there was a stream, but then there was a pretty vast wood system there, all in the park. And so I have a ton of memories of us spending time in the woods, either running around or jumping on rocks or throwing rocks into the river.
The things that you do when you were a child outside.
Yeah, we used to try and build dams to stop the water from flowing, and you jump on rocks and try and get into the islands in the middle of the river. Sure. And that kind of stuff. So I have some pretty specific memories. There was this one really big rock that we always... Oh, am I boring you?
No.
There was this one really big rock that we called Plymouth Rock for whatever reason. It wasn't really that big. It was big to a 6-year-old kid.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, it's still a pretty big rock. If you dropped it on your house, it would crush your house. So a big rock, but not a huge, not when you say Plymouth Rock, you think of the side of a cliff. It was just a big rock.
Okay.
But we used to climb on that, and that used to be a standard meetup area. We would go into the woods, and if we ever split up, it was okay, meet at Plymouth Rock in 15 minutes, and it was just a very easy place to find. I mean, we were in the woods there. And thinking back, I'm like, man, we would have been so easy to kidnap. Like it was
Absolutely.
just like a
Like
bunch
you're
of little
telling me
kids
this
like
and I'm
running
like,
around in the woods.
what brand of
But
psycho?
but at the same time, like there were, 5 of us potentially.
Yeah, that's 5 targets.
Okay, yeah, but like a guy couldn't kidnap all 5 of us, and I'm pretty sure that if
Yeah.
all 5 of us put up a fight, we could take one adult probably.
Rip.
And also, we weren't that far away from like people, like other campers,
Right.
and the place was always full. And sometimes there were other people in the woods too, just like either fishing in the lake or just wandering around or
So
having
if
a
you
picnic or
screamed
something.
bloody
So if
murder,
you're
it would be
screaming,
noticeable.
right, it would draw attention. But we never dealt with anything like that. That was never that was never an issue. We never had
Yeah,
issues
way to
with
give your parents a heart attack after the fact.
I mean, no, like whatever. It was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine. There was never any danger. I never
Did you
felt
take
danger.
a family vacation anywhere aside from Tennessee?
We would go up to like Daytona Beach and visit grandma and grandpa in Daytona Beach because they had a motel up there, and obviously they were getting pretty old, so we would go and spend a lot of times like the entire summer.
Right.
Or maybe not the entire summer, but a couple of months, honestly, sometimes
Sure.
just staying with them. Um, Aside from that, we didn't really have any other like family vacations. Like our vacation spots were always the same. It was either we're going to grandma and grandpa's at Daytona Beach, or our once a year we're going to Great Smoky Mountains. We're going to do our thing. In
You never did Disney as a family?
We did when we were younger, but as there became 5 kids and prices to go to Disney became outrageously expensive,
Yeah.
we didn't really do Disney all that much anymore. I mean, even like we had like, the Florida,
Resident
residents,
prices, yeah.
and,
Yes, for context, for those who don't know, Ethan is from the great state of Florida.
yes, yes, I am Florida man.
So. We'll talk about that in another
All those
episode.
stories are based on my life and experiences.
No, that is not true. Okay.
So I do have memories from Disney. That was always fun, but like I said, we didn't really go, like especially like as I got into middle school, high school, like
Yeah.
we didn't do Disney. If we did, it was like me and like a different person. Like it wouldn't have been like a family vacation to Disney. Like I mean, you and me went to Disney a couple times. We went on our honeymoon, obviously. And I think we
we're
maybe
that
went.
bougie.
I think we maybe went another time or two before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were kind of our staples. In 2007, my parents got a cabin in the Gatlinburg, Tennessee. So we stopped staying at the Glenstone Lodge, and we also stopped staying at the campground around the same time. We just started spending a week or two at the cabin, which is fine. It's close enough that you can still go on hikes and whatnot. Like you still have to drive to start most hikes, go to a trailhead.
But it's air conditioned.
Right. It's air conditioned. You have a shower and a normal bathroom that you're not sharing with 200 other random strangers.
Right.
There aren't, spiders and crane flies in the bathroom at, 10 o'clock at night when you have to go pee one last time or something.
Right.
But then, like, obviously you don't get the camping experience, which is...
Right, you don't get the sleeping on a stick experience.
Right, but I enjoy that, Everyone likes to sleep, a couple times with a stick stuck up their back.
I would like to go on record here and say I am not a part of everyone in that generalization statement. Great. Do you have anything else to say about your family vacations?
Oh yeah, I got tons of stories about family vacations. There was one time where I was walking on a log, and it was right after a pretty heavy rainstorm had come through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was walking on this log, and I slipped and fell, and I fell like onto my femur, and like really, really hard, like full weight, fell over, and I heard this super loud crack. It wasn't the tree breaking. And in my brain, I was like, I just broke my femur in half. because it like hurt pretty bad. Like it
Yeah.
didn't hurt like a bone break, but it hurt. You know, I obviously
Yeah.
fell over. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I stood up and I was like, oh, I can stand. Like, that probably wouldn't be able to happen if I
Right.
just cracked my femur in half. Turns out I fell onto my phone and cracked my phone in half.
Awful.
And
It's just great.
I cracked it enough that the screen was completely destroyed, but it didn't like stop working. So I could still make calls if I knew the phone number. I could still receive calls. I couldn't see who was calling. And I could send a text message, but I don't know how I would have like navigated to send a text
Right.
message. Like it was obviously a dumb phone, so there wasn't any like I don't know. Like I would get text messages and I'm like, well, can't read that.
So your phone saved your femur.
Yep. There was another time where we were camping, and I don't remember if we were in the van. We had a big 7-seater van, and I was in the van, and it was like raining and storming, and this huge crack of thunder and lightning hit, and like blinding light and this really loud bang of thunder, and lightning had struck a tree like right across the road from like where we were staying. Like, I mean, and we went afterwards and like saw like the light. You could like see the lightning mark that like
pattern.
wrapped around the
Yeah.
tree, and how it. I mean, it was like super super close, and we would. I mean, it was a big tree, so every year we went back, we could always be like, oh yeah, that was the tree that got struck by lightning when we were right next to it.
Wild.
But yeah, just lots of hiking. I love hiking, so that's always fun. One of the most memorable hikes I went on was Mount LeConte, which was a pretty awesome hike. It took all day. It was me, Dad, and Alex that went on the hike, and we went up, to Mount LeConte, and they have like a resort at the top that you can like stay at, if you pay money, obviously. Right. We didn't do that. We just hiked up and then hiked down all in the same day. But that's a pretty cool place because they have like helicopters that will come up to like bring supplies and that kind of stuff. Always wanted to do the Appalachian Trail, and we always talked about it, me, Dad, and Alex, but never got around to actually pulling the trigger on it.
You and I talked about it for a minute, and then realistically we decided we cannot quit our jobs for 6 months to hike the AT.
It's a really big commitment to do, and if you're
especially with
working
dogs,
like a career,
because dogs are only allowed on part of it, so it's kind of like you have to have someone take your dog whichever way, like however far that you can't take them on the trail,
right,
to keep like meeting up with you, and you've got to drop food at different places along the way, like at different towns, so that you can be. It's very hiking the AT is very involved, and it's like a 6-month commitment. Georgia to Maine.
Yep. There was another time we were sleeping in the tent, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I heard this like growling outside. I just hit my hand on the desk and it kind of hurt. I heard this growling outside, and it's the Smoky Mountains. Like black bears is one
Very
of their
common.
Yeah, I don't know about very common, because I think the black bears are actually kind of.
They're very common.
I don't know if they're very common. I don't know if they're like endangered, but I don't know that they're very common. I could be totally wrong though.
Anyway,
we never really saw them. That was why I assumed that they
Sure.
were, kind of endangered maybe. But I heard this like growling outside, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a black bear outside. It's gonna try and eat us all. And then I'm like, no, that's not a black bear. I'm like, that's someone trying to unzip our tent. Like someone's like trying to get into our tent, and like who would be trying to get into our tent? Like what the heck is going on? And then I realized it was just my dad snoring.
Great.
And I was like freaking out, thinking it was like a bear and then an intruder, and then it was just dad snoring. That was a pretty freaky day. But yeah, I mean, I could go on forever about family vacation stories. There's
clearly
hundreds of them. Now that we have the cabin, there's like tons of stories with the cricket cave and the bears that walk around the cabin all the time. The bear hot tub.
Bear hot tub. Yep.
Yeah, once we got the cabin, had a hot tub, and the bears were attracted. I don't know if they were attracted to some chemical in the hot tub, or just the warmth of the hot tub, or just you know, the fact that it was water. I don't know what attracted them to it, but they would stand on the cover of the hot tub and it would cave in, and then they would just chill in the hot tub for a while because, you know, hot tub, if you're in it, might as well stay in it for a little bit.
It's true.
So my dad had to go through like, I don't know how many, but a number of covers for the hot tub because they would just stand on it, bust it in, or like rip it open and get in the hot tub. And then, you know, like
the cover's ruined and you gotta
right.
start
Well,
over.
it's the water is like super dirty and there's like bear hair and other, you know, stuff that they bring in. So you have to like drain it, clean it, refill it, fix the top of the cover. So for a while he had this like big old metal like cover that he made out of like steel that he was putting on top, and it was so heavy and such a big thing to like take off. But then he ended up switching to some other cover that I guess is a little bit stronger. It's got a couple of punctures in it from the bears standing on it every now and again. But he also put a little tub and filled that with water, and we call that the bear hot tub, even though it's probably ice cold water all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they use it, they dunk in it, and, you know, the mama bear and her cubs will sometime use it when they're walking by.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. There is a little bear family that lives up next to the cabin.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they live next to the cabin, but
or near-ish. They're
come
constantly
down by the cabin on their
down the
way
mountain.
into town.
And I say that because for our honeymoon, we spent part of it at the cabin, and we saw said bear family. And so it was like a mom and her 3 little cubs. And we went back to the cabin 2 years ago, and then just this last May. So I guess last year, and then a couple months ago. But I was just talking to Ethan, and I was like, wow, I wonder if like generationally, obviously there's no outward signs of what gender the cubs were, but it was one of those things of like, in my mind, it's just 1 mama bear and 3 cubs all the time. Obviously, years have passed since we were there at that time. But the last time we were there, it seems that there is at least a new mama and cub, at least one.
Yeah, I'm
that we were
assuming that
seeing when we were there
year
last,
to year,
which was nice.
they were
Generationally,
probably
they just lived there.
different mama bear and cubs. I don't know how quickly cubs leave their
I have no idea.
moms.
I think polar bear cubs take a while. But I don't know if that translates
These were
to other
not
bears.
polar bears.
Not polar bears, sorry. I don't know if that translates. Family vacations for Maisie. We'll probably cover some other episode where we talk about all the different states we've lived in, but that plays a factor in the family vacations that I've had. So I don't know if I can pinpoint maybe an earliest family vacation. The year that I was 5, we had season passes to Disneyland. That's when I lived in California. And that year, California Adventure opened. It was like a secondary park. So I feel like I remember that briefly because we were there all the time. It was like a half an hour from where I lived. We just went often. But I don't know if I would consider that, you know, like a family vacation. Probably the first one that I can remember, we went to Montana. From California. We drove to Montana. It was me, my mom, my now ex-stepdad and ex-stepbrother. I think Ashley was with us. Sorry very much. We were in a red Dodge Durango. I still have a little bit of PTSD about it. It's fine. And we drove, it was like a 14-hour drive from California to Montana. My step family lived there, I think. And we went up and we like hung out with them. It was like step grandparents or something that we were going to see. And I mean, I don't really remember a whole ton about it, except I remembered that I was like maybe 10 at the time, maybe like 9 or 10. And the driving age in Montana is 14. So I was trying to convince my mom to move us to Montana so that I could drive earlier. I don't remember what we did otherwise. Like I don't remember scenic things that we saw, or I hardly remember anything about that. And then when I was like, I went to a horse camp one time when I lived in upstate New York. Not like a family vacation. I guess that's just a summer thing.
Sure.
Family vacations. I don't think we really started taking family vacations until we lived in North Carolina. Like, I think it was just kind of we went here or did that randomly, but it wasn't like a designated summer doing this as a family thing.
Right.
Until we moved to North Carolina. And then the first one that I remember, I think we went to the Outer Banks. I was allowed to invite 2 friends. And so, because I'm an only child, you just don't have siblings. So I invited 2 friends, and then it was my mom and myself, and then my other ex-stepdad. You know, we should not put out a podcast about that. It's really not even... Anyway.
It would just be you talking about how
Just...
your mom had gotten married and divorced multiple times and you had multiple stepdads.
Yes, it was. It was not, you know, it's just not a
Can't
lighthearted conversation.
Relate.
But it was then, you know, that ex-stepdad and I think both of his kids were with us at that point. So full house, we went to the Outer Banks. I don't remember a whole ton about it. It was the beach, North Carolina. It was gorgeous. It was like a 4-hour drive from where we were, so it didn't even feel like that far.
I don't think I've ever been to the beach in North Carolina. I don't think we went when I came
to
visit with you.
So from where my mom lived, the beach was like 2 hours, essentially, like the closest beach.
Yeah. I know, but we were on vacation, so like 2-hour drive to the beach would not have been like insane.
Beaches in North Carolina, depending on where you go, the one that was closest to us would have been Wilmington Beach, and it's okay, but it's like nothing to write home about. Outer Banks was very nice. I remember it being very nice, not, you know, your standard beach. I don't remember a ton about what we did. I just remember, you know, fun family vacation. The next year, I think that we did like a staycation sort of thing where we bopped to a couple of different places, like did some smaller drives, but I don't remember where we went or what we did necessarily. I just remember after that, my mom being like, we're never doing that again. It was a lot more stressful than I thought it was going to be. And then the following year we went to Williamsburg, Virginia, and that was fun. That was like also from North Carolina. It's like another 4-hour drive, that kind of thing. But that was very historical, obviously, because you're in Williamsburg. And so fun little trip.
It's funny you mentioned that you invited your friends to bring, because I was just talking to Scotty the other day. Because obviously with the 5 of us kids, there wasn't really a lot of room to just invite other people in general. Like they would have had to essentially, their entire family would have had to come up with them if we were going to invite friends. But there was one year where I don't know if maybe, I guess Savannah probably wasn't going, maybe Dad wasn't going, or maybe Dad was going to like fly up. Like he was going to get back from a trip, go to Atlanta and then drive or something like that. So there was going to be extra room in the car because it was probably just going to be me, Mom, Gus, Alex, and Silas. So just the 5 of us. And we were probably renting a minivan, which would have had 7 seats. So we, or I invited Scotty to come on the vacation with me, and he was like, nah, like,
and he just
we were, and it was funny because we were just talking about that yesterday when we were just talking about vacations, because he's about to go on his vacation, and I was like, remember that time that I invited you on my vacation and you said no? And he was like, I don't remember that, but I still think about it and cry from time to time.
I'm so sorry. I was allowed to have friends on my vacations. Actually, there was one other one in between. I think it was my sophomore year maybe of high school, and I had one friend come with me, another beach kind of vacation, Tennessee maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of embarrassing photographs of that vacation on Facebook, so there's that. I remember specifically because like they're just, you know, you could only do so much, and so I ended up bringing Dutch Blitz, and we played incessantly, and we played like 2, because it goes up to 4 players, but we played 2 decks each. Like we were insane. And then so that was like in between, because it was like my senior year that we ended up doing the Williamsburg trip with a different friend. Different friends, all of these trips, by the way. Every single trip, it was a different set of friends. That's just how quickly my friend turnaround was in high school. So there's that. And then after that, the last family vacation I remember before I went off to school was we had gone to Boca. I don't know why we decided to go to Boca for family vacation.
Oh yes, I remember this story.
So the year was 2012. I was getting ready to go to school at Oceanside School of Worship in Fort Lauderdale. And
shout out to OE.
Sorry. We already agreed, like I'd already set that up. That was already the plan. It's not like we were visiting or anything like that. Like that was the plan. For whatever reason, we decided to take family vacation that year in Boca. So we took it like before I was going down there for school. So it was a very weird time because I was also going on a missions trip to the Bahamas right after family vacation. So we left from North Carolina. I think we drove down to Boca. We spent like a week. Because of the way churches work, I had to fly back to North Carolina for like a day in order to fly back to Fort Lauderdale to fly out to the Bahamas.
Right.
For another like 2 weeks or whatever the trip was. I think it was maybe a week to fly back to North Carolina to drive down to Florida like 2 weeks later for school. It was like ridiculous. I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I should have just stayed here.
Yeah, and I know that in the past, I think it was Augusta, kind of had a similar situation where she wanted to like fly separately or do something separately on a missions trip, and the church was just like, absolutely not. Like, there's no way in heck that is going to happen. Even though like my mom is like, we're going to let this happen, right? And they're like, no. She can't come on the trip if this. And it's like,
it's such a liability thing,
right? It's a weird liability thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also like, well, if like the kid and the parents are all like in agreement, like, yeah, we're going to do this and just meet up there.
Right.
It's like, okay, then just meet up there. Like, why is it such a big deal? And
I
I don't know, maybe they would be worried like if like you got stuck somewhere, like, and they then had to like wait at the airport for an extra day or something, like it could like mess up their plans.
I just remember feeling so ridiculous being like, going into the same airport, like leaving an airport to fly an hour or to fly for a day, like a night, to fly back to the same airport less than 24 hours later to sit there for a 4-hour, 6-hour layover, whatever it was, to get on a 30-minute plane ride to the Bahamas when it's like, I could have just stayed here. Churches are weird. But, so I remember that family vacation in Boca. And again, I don't know what we did. I think we just went to the beach. I think at any given point, my mom was just, I want to be on a beach.
Yeah. Well, if you're not
really
from Florida and you vacation to Florida, you're most likely vacationing to Florida for the beach.
It's true.
I mean, there's the Everglades too, but I don't think anyone would just
I think we did Gumbo Limbo on that vacation, that Boca vacation.
Okay.
I think we did. I feel like we did that because then I remember moving there and being like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah.
But we didn't go to like the Keys or anything like that. I think that my mom wanted to because she had done some snorkeling there at some other point in her life and really wanted to go, and we didn't get to go for that vacation. And
I used to snorkel all the time. And then Travis left he joined the Coast Guard, so he went to California, and none of my other friends wanted to go snorkeling with me. Alex maybe would have gone snorkeling with me, but I don't know. He didn't seem like super interested at the time, and I probably wasn't like being like, hey, Alex, let's go snorkeling, because like Alex kind of got into that whole like paddle boarding and like that kind of stuff, and like fishing. Like he got into that kind of afterwards, and I don't know if he got into it because he was hanging out with Travis for a while or what the deal was, but at the time, like that was like me and Travis's thing. We'd like go snorkeling, but then when he left, I had no one to go with, and I had like 2 sets of snorkeling gear.
Tragic.
And I tried to get a couple of friends like Volman or Fuentes to go, but that never.
Sorry to anyone listening that doesn't know who any of these people are.
They're just old friends that I never get to see anymore.
That's true. I don't think that after that though we had. I mean, that was then I went off to college, and so we didn't really have any family vacations. One of my ex-stepdads, that's a terrible phrase. His family lived in Florida.
You need to be like ex-stepdad number 3.
Oh my gosh. Rip. His family lived in Florida in West Palm Beach, so my mom and him would come often, and so it would be like a family vacation, but I lived there, so I wasn't getting a vacation, I was just seeing them.
Do you have a favorite place, like looking back all your family vacations, do you have a favorite one that you think of?
No.
I
think it all is just beach. Like it's all just beach.
Do you have like a favorite?
It doesn't really matter which
trip
one.
Or a favorite experience that sticks out to you?
Not particularly. I think of like little things, other little things that we did, like, and things that I feel like I just like go with what my mom found fun, and I liked spending time with her. So, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like this fun things that we did. So when we lived in upstate New York, we would go into the city often, which was so stupid because it was like a 3-hour drive, and we went there like so many times in the course of a year. But that wasn't like a family vacation. It was just a thing that my mom and godmother liked to do, and I got to go with them and spend time, and like, so I think primarily, as probably shallow as it sounds, any shopping trip with my mom was probably the more memorable experience rather than the specific outlined family vacation. I do think one year when we went to Williamsburg, we ended up going in Virginia, there was an amusement park called Busch Gardens. And so we got to go to that.
I know
and
Busch
I was
Gardens is.
Okay, fine.
They had some in Florida.
Oh, all right. Anyway, we went to Busch Gardens. That was the one year my one friend got to come with me. And, but my mom had just had like a knee replacement or a hip replacement, something like that. And so she couldn't walk all that well or walk for long distances. And so we were pushing her in the wheelchair, but it turns out that me and my friend weren't roller coaster riders. So we just spent the day like pushing her around and doing shopping. And she was like, what the heck? Like, I brought you guys to an amusement park and you just want like, because Busch Gardens was similar to Epcot at Disney. So it was like the cultural shopping experience. It wasn't just like a, random
I know.
thing,
I'm just saying,
but
why go?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Why go to Disney World just to hit up all the gift shops?
Exactly. I think that my mom thought that my friend, she knew that I didn't like roller coasters, but I think she thought my friend liked rides. And it turned out we got there and neither one of us wanted to do any rides. And so that was a pretty fun time. But otherwise, no, not really any super memorable family. Because then we got married and then I joined your family.
Right.
And all of those family vacations have since been at Gatlinburg.
Right.
And I still don't think I have any like super notable standout like well, okay, that's not true. When we got engaged, obviously. But outside of that, I feel like I don't have any like monumental. This last time, a couple months ago, when we went to Gatlinburg, we went over the Sky Bridge, which is the largest suspension bridge in North America. And that was pretty cool. That was a cool experience to do. I got a little cup commemorating it that says I crossed the Sky Bridge.
Yep.
But I just like Gatlinburg is so I've been there now, I mean far less than you, but at this point I've been there now on our honeymoon, when we got engaged first, then on our honeymoon, and then twice more. And so it all just is kind of the same cyclical blur. It's like you do downtown Gatlinburg, you do a hike.
Right. Like I was saying, it's hard to like distinguish year to year.
Right.
Like the differences per se, because it's kind of all blends together, especially when you're going to the same place every year.
I think that the most important like takeaway is that, for parents in general, as we are at some point going to become parents, and I think like what I remember from my childhood is more so the time that you spend with your kids is more important than what you're actually doing.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Like looking back to my vacations, I don't know that I could specifically pick out one that is better, but I just remember like the good ones that stick out in my mind are like, when we were camping as a family, or
hiking
being or being in Daytona Beach with like grandparents too, like just like the family stuff, even though maybe at the time I wasn't like super happy to be, on vacation in the same place with the same people. Like I was maybe like, oh, I wish Scotty would have come with us this time.
And I mean, retrospectively, I don't talk to any of the friends I went with, like that came with us on vacation.
Retrospectively, I still talk to the one friend that could have gone on the vacation with me one time.
And I'm sure that too, like as an only child, I'm sure that there was a sense of my mom being like, listen, I also need a vacation from you, so I'm going to give you another person so that I don't have to spend my vacation just with you. Yeah. Totally valid. I could absolutely see it. But I just don't, I don't really have, I think more about the time that I had with my mom.
Moral of the story.
Than the experiences that she
Get your family together, just round them all up.
Yep.
By whatever it takes, get a lasso, pull them together, get your horse hog time, and go on a family vacation. Spend some time with the people in your family that you love.
Intentional about the time than the location or the experience.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're doing it as a family. Unless you're like killing and eating people, that is that is a problem.
Here I just was going to comment about like this is the wholesome content that you came for, and now Ethan's talking about cannibalism. So there's that.
I'm saying that is not a good family vacation. If you want to, if you want to do something fun that also doesn't involve murder and hurting other people.
Such good life lessons.
It's a good time.
What great wisdom from Ethan.
Yes.
So I think
tune in next week for more wisdom from Ethan and my infinite knowledge and wisdom of
I rebuke that. We are not
families.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
All right.
Until next time, we are the Hinces. This is our house.
We love you. Love each other. Love God. Don't hate people.
Great.
Goodbye.